Hello, and welcome back to another episode of PPM 101, where today we're covering resource capacity planning. So the first basic question is, what is resource capacity planning? And resource capacity planning is a critical component of project portfolio management, and it really, to boil it down, focuses on two key pieces of information: resource availability, or your capacity, to do work. It's the total time that you or a role or the organization has to do work. And then we've got forecasted utilization, which is the planned time that we've already allocated to do work in the future. So it's really about measuring and managing our availability to do work compared against the work we've already been assigned to do. And capacity planning answers two fundamental questions. At the portfolio level, it helps us to understand, do we have capacity or availability to take on new work? Super important when we're talking about work intake, stage gate, etc. When can we take on new work? It's a big question that senior leaders are asking at most portfolio review meetings. Secondly, do we have the resources to get our current work done? This is more of a project-oriented view, and it's focused on our existing commitments. So these are the two fundamental questions that capacity planning helps answer. One is portfolio-oriented, to know when we can take on new work, and one is project-oriented, to know if we can get our current work done. And we're showing the portfolio management life cycle just to highlight where resource capacity planning fits in. And we'll see in the next slide, it actually covers the first three components of the portfolio life cycle. But wanting to highlight this again, that everything that we do with resource capacity planning has the one unique goal of maximizing value that the organization can deliver to its customers and stakeholders. And we do that by better defining the portfolio, optimizing the portfolio, and protecting the portfolio. So with these three stages, just highlighting that in the definition phase, we're really looking at assessing the needs of the incoming requests. It comes back to that question, can we take on additional work? In the optimize portion of the portfolio lifecycle, we're using that information to construct an optimal portfolio based on our resource constraints. And in protecting the portfolio or the value of the portfolio, we're really focused on the resource management more at a tactical level for specific projects to ensure that those projects can successfully deliver their planned outcomes. When talking about resource capacity planning, it's important to distinguish between a top-down resource plan versus a bottoms-up project plan. And this is one of the dilemmas that organizations get into when trying to do capacity planning, is that they want to build not only a detailed project plan, but they want to assign resources at the task level. And I would say that for capacity planning purposes, for portfolio management, phase level allocations are generally sufficient. As we can see in the example here, week by week there may be adjustments in the amount of time that a specific person is needed on a project. But at a phase level, we have more of a general forecast for that person. And of course, we can see that there's a difference. We're not tracking at the detailed task level, but generally at a phase level that gives us enough information. It's acceptable to do good portfolio resource capacity planning. And that's what we're trying to highlight right here. The goal is not to forecast exactly at the task level and roll that up across the organization. It's all about answering our two fundamental questions. Can we take on new work, and can we get our current work done? And if we do phase level resource planning for capacity planning purposes, it's good enough. To highlight the complexity of resource capacity planning, I want to highlight there's a lot of moving parts. And starting with the project level, really it begins with good project planning. And this is where there's a significant overlap between project and portfolio management. At the project level, it's very important that teams are equipped and able to do a good job of defining scope, of defining their tasks and creating a work breakdown structure. Even after that's done, there's the need to estimate the duration of those tasks and even estimate how much effort is needed for those tasks. That's the heart at the project level of resource capacity planning. And then after that, there's of course strong communication that needs to take place within the project team and with the resource managers. And then of course, good resource management would include a person's interest, their ability, and their skill set to ensure that they can support the project appropriately. At the portfolio level, it really comes down to the governance team. The governance team needs to know how to use the portfolio reports that are being provided to them to make timely portfolio decisions, and that this information would be reviewed on a regular basis. Of course, the resource data, the entry, the collection, and the quality are critical. And that's typically where a PMO, or at the very least a portfolio manager, would help with the data collection. And then there's the analysis piece that feeds the governance team. You need to have a dedicated person at the very least to do the analysis. They need to have the right skills and the report creation skills to build the necessary reports to support the portfolio governance team in making strategic decisions with the resource capacity information. There's a lot of moving parts, and if anything breaks down, it compromises and jeopardizes the success of capacity planning. So what do we do with the data? Is a common question. So when we do have over-allocated resources, what should we do with it? 3 basic responses. The first is that we can update the completion dates of those projects, typically by stretching them out. That would be to adjust the project level schedule or a quote portfolio level schedule if we're going to extend the dates of the projects in order to fit in the resource availability. If the budget is available, additional resources can be added. This would be contract workers or potential full-time employees. The third is to put lower priority projects on hold or potentially canceled in order to free up time to work on higher priority work. This is a matter of portfolio scope. So it really comes down to updating the duration of the projects or the end dates, updating or having the budget to add to resource availability, or adjusting the scope by canceling or putting on hold certain projects. Thank you for watching. If you learned something in this video, please like it and subscribe to our channel. And when you sign up for our newsletter at our website, you'll get a free ebook called Prioritization with Purpose. Thank you.